30% of 5 to 7-year-olds have TikTok. A lot of times they're marking themselves as 13. 13-year-old feed on TikTok is so brutal. The Wall Street Journal did a report where they set up a bunch of random 13-year-old girl accounts. Every single 13-year-old girl was shown at least 10,000 weight loss videos in their first 2 weeks. So 5,000 weight loss videos a day. So, 700 a week, every 10 minutes, you're seeing 30 weight loss videos. Every minute, you're seeing 3. Is that the math? So crazy stuff is like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. I'm not wanting our kids to be another statistic. We're truly in this like cigarette type era, and we kind of had, unfortunately, the experiment the last 10 years, and it went, terribly wrong. We handed kids doom scroll apps really early in their life. I will say that these platforms are working, in my opinion, directly against parents, and it's not a fair fight. Absolutely wrecking their attention span. Our kids are the best when they're not on screens. So I would say best case scenario, no screens for as long as possible. We went so that was 30 minutes a day, social era. That's what we did on average. Then we did 2 hours a day, highlight reel era. Now we're at 5 hours a day. We made the jump from 2 hours to 5 hours with just no matter what, it doesn't matter who you follow. It's all about the algorithm. We're going to make it a cultural norm for very, very, very young kids to be dancing and flirty. If you just remember one thing, less oversight in the real world, let them get scrapes and bruises, let them climb a tree. This generation needs to understand why. So when you make a decision, please don't say because I said so, even though your mom said it to you growing up and it worked for you. They really need to understand why.
Scrolling has become second nature, almost habitual and ritualistic, like our morning cup of coffee. We tap, like, scroll, swipe through this hyper-connected world where algorithms often know us better than we know ourselves. But not all scrolling makes us happy. Sometimes it leaves us feeling drained, divided, or even worse. And that's where today's guest comes in. Meet Nick Rotola. He's a dad of 3, a serial entrepreneur, and also the founder of a company called Up, which owns the platform called scrollhappy.com. You have it there in the name. You're happy when you scroll. We're going to talk to him all about social media for young minds, but also the influence of technology where we're, raising children in a fully connected, digital, hyper-technological era. Get this, he's also a youth pastor, so he's really, really invested in the well-being of kids. So welcome, Nick, to the show. It's so exciting to have you here on the Parenting Reboot.
Great to be here. What a pro intro. Thank you.
So Nick, tell us where you're speaking from today. And also, let's start a bit about the background of Up. What inspired you to start a social media platform that pursues happiness?
Yeah, sure. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Wichita, Kansas, in the middle of the U.S. I have a crazy backstory. I'll give you the really fast version, then we can unpack anything you want. A professional baseball player, helped build a billion-dollar crypto startup. 2021, 2022, I had a physical storefront on Fifth Avenue, New York City, that allowed content creators to cast to 300 unique screens on Fifth Avenue, and we moderated with AI. Art gallery, digital art gallery. And I learned how easy it was to kind of mod content on the fly like that, and how cheap and easy. And I always thought my feed was sort of like disgusting on Instagram because of like just how hard it is to moderate and all the kind of spammy content out there and whatever, content farms and all this stuff. And yeah, I just had this back and forth with Instagram. A lot of people in my life had a back and forth with Instagram, where they just like were a lot happier when they had it off their phone. And I just wanted to solve that problem. And then, I started having kids when I had that Fifth Avenue gallery, and now I have 3. And, a daughter is my oldest, and she's just so sweet. And we just do so much to protect her and keep her safe and fill her with confidence. Just the thought that we're going to turn her over to one of these algorithms that's going to unpack those things and break her down and squeeze every penny out of her, it's just not going to happen. So Yeah, I've done some hard things in my professional adult life that a lot of people think were kind of, impossible or would give up on. And I'm someone to stick to it and just do whatever it takes to get something done. And also I think, we have a we have one of these teams that's just like once in a lifetime kind of teams coming together to build this, of mostly parents. They're just extremely paranoid of technology and what's going on, and it just not wanting our kids to be another statistic. So we have this. We're truly in this like cigarette type era where it's like, wait, hold on, and so it's like, is this really what we're going to be handing kids? And we kind of had, unfortunately, the experiment the last 10 years, and it went, terribly wrong. And there's all these stats, but at the end of the day, we tried it out. We handed kids Doomscroll apps really early in their life, and now I think there needs to be a clear separation. And I think a lot of parents are going to either detach from it or delay it, or they're going to choose alternative platforms for their kids. And that's where we come in. If this is a parenting podcast, we can say, we're building up for kids. We don't tell the kids that. Kids don't want an app that's for kids.
Mm.
So we're really building for Gen Z. Uh, there's all this data, but about half of Gen Z wish doom scroll apps never existed. A
Mm.
billion people last year detoxed from all social media, saying, I got to get these things off my phone. This is not good for me. So we're going after that billion people. And we're saying, hey, this whole wrestling where you're fighting against an algorithm that's incredibly smart. And like you said, knows you really well, buys every possible data point on you, tracks everything they can, microphone, biometric data. These are military grade
Yeah.
machines working against us, and their job is fair is make as much money as possible, keep you on the screen as long as possible. And so you do some pretty crazy things when you have AI and machine learning doing that, and humans have not been involved in the
Mm.
recommendation algorithm for a long, long, long time. We just turned these over to machines long time ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I'm doing. We're super excited. Our algorithm is crushing TikToks and clinical trials. Basically, we do all kinds of brain and biometric data to say, is this objectively better for you? Do you enjoy it more? And we're beating them every time. So it's like, it's more enjoyable to have a feed without, political rage bait or, highly, highly sexual content. It's not really what they're coming to the app for anyway. Nobody says I'm going to go get on Instagram and I'm going to go get pissed for 3.5 hours. They think that they're going to get joy or happiness or escape a bit or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, there's just endless case studies and just people that have told us their stories and are so excited about what we're about to come to market with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's an exciting ride. We're excited. It's pretty fun to be solving a critical problem. My main pain point in life is screen time and my kids and my
Mm.
and screen time and myself and happiness. And so to be on the right side of that, where we can say objectively with science backed, evidence
Mm-hmm.
that our feed is better and it makes you feel better and you enjoy it more. So now we just gotta execute. So
Mm-hmm. It's so many things that I want to unpack right there, Nick. But I'm going to start with the simplest one because it caught me, and we're going to go into a bit more detail about what Scroll Happy is doing as well. Like you mentioned, you're a dad of three, and because this is primarily a parenting podcast, I do want to ask you: has your relationship with technology changed, and how has it changed since you became a dad?
yeah, I think being a parent is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I think culture has lied to us about children, and that a lot of that is driven by the algorithm. But
Mm.
kids are just the best. I love my kids so much. I learn so much from them. And yeah, I mean, you you probably wouldn't find a parent that's didn't say their heart was softened by having kids, and
Mm-hmm.
it teaches you more about what matters. And for me, it's it helps me understand, my creator more, if I'm his child. And um, they're 0 to 6, they're in copy their parents mode.
Mm.
And then from 7 on, they start getting into copy their peers mode. And so, what I say really matters. My daughter walked out the other day and said, "What a beautiful day." And that's because I always say that. It's just she just didn't even think about it, just said, "What a beautiful day." And so, she's positive and uplifting because that's how I talk to her. And so then when you think about media and you think about, okay, whatever you tell her, that's what she's going to be saying.
Mm.
And whatever, they're trying to be like your parents. So whatever the parent's kind of into, they're going to be into. So if a parent has an unhealthy relationship with technology, the kid's going to want an unhealthy relationship with technology. And so they're just mimicking and they're copying. So, yeah, I mean, I would say I'm definitely a part of the school of thought that it's better to try to spend 5 hours outside a day and have
Mm.
no TV in your house and no phone ever. It's like, but I run a tech company. I'm trying to respond quickly to emails and Slack notifications and keep things moving and make this mission happen. And we do love old Disney movies and stuff like that. It moves a little slower and tells a meaningful story.
Mhm.
Uh, so we're in the world. Do not want to be of the world, and we do not want to
Mm.
be another statistic. So if my kids are like another fish, even the dead fish swims dead downstream with everyone else. I want them to swim upstream. I want them to be different.
Mm.
And so it's almost better to start with the statistics. So I'm in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, it used to be, 1%, less than 1% of kids in your high school tried to kill themselves every year. And at one high school was like, I remember like one kid, that tried to kill themselves, and it was like a big deal. And now, according to Jed Foundation, which is the most credible mental health foundation in the world, the annual suicide attempt rate in the U.S. for high school students is 10%. 10.
Yeah.
You have 1,500 kids in your high school, 150 of them are gonna try to kill themselves this year. And so it's we have the new cigarette going on. It's not in it's not in plain sight like cigarettes. Like cigarettes, they're like ripping them. We did a good job in the 60s and 70s and 80s of making it taboo, of like, "Hey, you can't give kids cigarettes, you can't be smoking in front of kids." Like, it took a while.
Mhm.
1964, the Surgeon General came out and said cigarettes are killing us. And then, it took us a while. And now 2022, Surgeon General did the same with social media. It's like, hey, this is killing us. We gotta get a grip on this. The whole country of Australia has been working on their 15 and under ban. New Zealand, United Kingdom's working on theirs. United States, many, many states are working on theirs, and I can go on and on and on. Sweden. So what am I saying? So kids are the best thing ever. They're so pure of heart and amazing. And I just want to protect that innocence. And
Mhm.
I want my kids to stay kids. I also want them to be able to handle the world and take it on, just
Mhm.
I did and all that. There's definitely a balance. I will say that these platforms are working, in my opinion, directly against parents.
Mm.
And it's not a fair fight. When you go out to eat and, 7 other families have the iPad rolling and Coco Melon changes scenes every 2 seconds, on average or whatever the exact statistic is, much, much, much faster than they should. And so these kids are unbelievably sucked in and that high, high, high contrast on the colors. So it's absolutely wrecking their attention span. And then, when you get home, how are you going to possibly entertain that kid with the wood toys and dad's stories and all that? Like, my kids are obsessed with my stories right now, obsessed. Like, they can't wait to hear a story from me. And that's
Mm.
because we have protected them from some of these malicious, greedy, predatory shows and platforms as much as we can. Now, eh, you know, I hope to kind of solve a problem, which is I love pulling up certain videos on YouTube and showing them to my kids. I just don't want the next recommended video to be God knows what, or the ad to be
Yeah.
God what. I hate that I have to subscribe for 15 bucks a month so I just don't have this insane ad popping up to my kid of some AI girlfriend or whatever. And so anyway, just to kind of button it up, like
Yeah.
we I'm not my kids are not in one of these colonies where they're not going to be on technology for their whole life.
Mm,
It's super hard. And this is my main pain point is
mm,
screen time with my kids. And I think parents these days have it much, much harder. It seems easy because you could just stick an iPad or a phone, but then if you realize what are the implications of that and what are you actually doing for yourself when you're trying to put them down or you're trying to give them a bath or you're trying to discipline them, those things all become orders of magnitude harder because you have shredded their brain and what they think is normal from an entertainment standpoint
mm-hmm.
and just emotion regulation, and there's all kinds of science that you can get into, but yeah, our kids are the best when they're not on screens. So I would say best case scenario, no screens for as long as possible, but that's just not the world we live in. So up is hoping to kind of solve that gap and provide
Mm-hmm.
a trusted alternative where you can, at a certain age where it makes sense, hand them the phone with the app.
It's so interesting that you put it that way because, like, going back to your comment about like from 0 to 6, they're mimicking you as parents, and then 6 onwards, they're peers, right? So even if you keep them away, let's say from screens right up to the age of 4 or 5, or give like slow forms of entertainment, once they're in middle school, once they're in high school, they see their peers bringing in school, iPads and smartphones into schools. And like, there's this obviously whole debate going on about banning devices from schools, but schools themselves are, either going full blown ed tech, in the sense that handing out Chromebooks and tablets to kids so they can do their homeworks in there. And then your kid sees that happen and compares themselves with their peers, saying, well, they're on social media, they're playing Roblox, or they have access to such and such platform, and coming back home with those teachings and being like, you're the bad parent, you're not giving me stuff that, some of my other peers have,
So
right?
that's the second wave of the unfair battle. It's like you have 0 to 5, where it's like it feels easy to give them the iPad or put on the YouTube or whatever, and then you're actually hurting yourself later and hurting them much, much worse later. So that's why they say 0 to 3 no screens. We've done screens. So we haven't followed that. And I know how hard it is. But then so then they say it's actually not even the age you give your kid a phone, it's the age that their friends have phones. That's actually the
Mm.
critical. And then you have crazy stats like this one, Dee, because you just said middle high school started to get phones. So here's the stat from Common Sense Media in the US. 30% of 5 to 7-year-olds have TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not like a middle school thing even, it's a kindergarten thing, it's a first grade thing, it's a second grade thing. And you know what happens is a lot of times, a lot of times, and we don't have the exact stats. TikTok knows the exact stats, but we don't have the exact stats because they have biometric data and they know that kid's actually 6, even though they mark themselves as 13. A lot of times they're marking themselves as 13. And so then you have to realize, and it sucks to like it sucks that, because I always like to talk about the positive and the solution because we've solved the problem, and a lot of companies are starting to solve the problem, which is awesome. But man, the 13-year-old feed on TikTok is so brutal. I mean, it is shockingly brutal. So the Wall Street Journal did a report where they set up a bunch of random 13-year-old girl accounts, and they said, "Well, why are all these 13-year-old girls have such bad body issues? Like, what the heck's going on? Like, this didn't used to be a thing." Middle school girls didn't used to kill themselves. Why are they trying to do it so much now? And they found they basically tracked every single video that the 13-year-old girls were shown. And this video is about that. This video is about this. This video is about that. And they tried to scroll as evenly as possible. Like, we're going to watch videos today for 7 seconds on average, then we're going to scroll. So it wasn't about that. It wasn't about what they searched. It wasn't all the things you might think, oh well, they're interested in this is why the algorithm shows it. No, none of that. This is all just the algorithm pushing it on them. Every single 13-year-old girl was shown at least 10,000 weight loss videos in their first 2 weeks. So 5,000 weight loss videos a day. So 700 a week, 750 weight loss videos a day. And so, they're scrolling for, typically 5 hours on average is what a Gen Z scrolls. So you're talking about, every hour you're on there, you're seeing, whatever the math is, 150 weight loss videos every hour. Um, you know, every 10 minutes you're seeing 30 weight loss videos. Every minute you're seeing 3. Is that the math? So crazy, 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 crazy stuff is like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. And so eventually you start to believe it. And as a parent, I think our number one thing should be to protect our kids from things like that. You would never let a mentor pick up your little daughter and say, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, or whatever, or you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, or keep up with these AI bodies that you're seeing, pump through your feed like crazy. So I think, honestly, I think AI was almost the best thing that ever happened to this whole industry, because it's showing the almost like the murky water. It's
Mm,
exposing what's underneath, because what's happening is these AI farms, in the Philippines or wherever, can crank out, 5,000 videos in a day, and they could just flood the feeds. And so what it's doing is it's lowering the bar for content like
mm,
crazy. What is even like quality content? What might be seen as quality, and so it's flooding, 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 and it's making us realize, wait a second, quality matters and
mm,
curate matters. And so I think what's happening is a lot more people are wanting real, even
mm.
than 5 years ago. And then of course you have all the data, and it's like, oh wow, okay, I didn't realize that bad. I mean, yes, I'm on antidepressants, and I wish I'm miserable, and I do scroll these things for 3.5 hours a day. Maybe that is correlated. So it's like, it's starting to happen. Like what I think, honestly, Deepa, is in 10 years, it'll be like cigarettes. Exactly. Like,
Mm,
will reek. If they're doom scrollers, they will smell bad. Like, if you're
mm,
sitting on a plane and the guy next to you is scrolling TikTok videos of 14-year-old girls dancing for 2 hours with his internet, that's going to be like repulsive and disgusting.
yeah.
I think right now you're just like, oh, he's on TikTok, blah, 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 whatever. But like, it is repulsive what's going on. And it's just private and kind of hidden. But all things that are hidden come to light eventually. So it's just come
Mm,
to light.
yeah. I mean, I do want to pivot a bit more and talk about social media and then also talk about the solutions Scroll Happy's talking. But one more piece that I want to dig into parenting before we move there is, if there were one advice or a strategy that parents can put in their toolkit while raising young kids, especially teenagers, what would you tell them, especially those who are trying to also navigate how to build or how to teach their children to build a healthy relationship with technology, with devices and social media? Because um, the more I read and research about this, the more and it's the same historically, evolutionarily with any technology that we've ever adapted, right? It's always easier for the new generation to adapt. It's the parents or the generations from before that take a while to, you know, um, understand or grasp the technology, but the generations ahead of them are much, much faster at it, right? So in a nutshell, what is that one tip or strategy parents should put in their toolkit when raising children in a heavily technological AI era?
So I have a lot of experience with that age group. You mentioned youth pastor. I have 3 or 4 companies in the world of baseball where I was a baseball player and did lessons for many years. So, and we have an education platform, and we have camps and all this stuff, and mentorship program as part of that company. One thing that I realized about this generation is you have to tell them why.
Hmm.
The whole thing of like, because I said so, that's like the opposite of what you should do. And
Mm,
so, and that's what my mom used to say when I was growing up, and it worked for me, I think, in a way. But they need to understand why. And so, you know, the advice is, no smartphone until 13. If you can hold till 16, great. And then you have to hold till 16 on social media and try to hold the line on social, on, these doom scroll apps. And a lot of parents are saying, well, Pinterest is sort of like an in between, YouTube's sort of an in between. Pinterest has serious problems with moderation, serious, serious, serious problems with AI content and sexual content. If you just scroll, that, they have equivalent basically to For You feeds. Everyone kind of has their equivalent to a For You feed that they're rolling out. And then YouTube Shorts have all their own same problems.
Mm.
I know a group that spends their Fridays just reporting choking videos on YouTube Shorts, choking challenge, which 1,200 kids choked themselves to death last year. Many, many more tried and didn't die, thankfully. No kids ever searching for a choking video. They're just served it in their short. So what happens is you search for a dude perfect video, you're watching a few and then it starts, the algorithm takes over and then it's hitting you with the mind and then you get a choking video. And then if you watch that a little bit long or send it to a friend, like, this is so messed up, I can't believe I just saw this, you'll get, 800 more or 600
Oh
more,
my God.
and then next thing you know, you're doing this until you pass out. It's really crazy. So, and the gloves are off. So, please hold off.
Mm.
Join the wait list, scrollhappy.com, get the Up app if you're watching this later, where, we basically built a filtration system that we think is pretty bulletproof. We'll see, but we've drawn some hard lines, like on political content, where we're just not going to have it, sexual content as well. It's like, if you want those things, you're going to go to different platforms anyway. I don't think you actually go to Instagram for those things per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, we've solved your problem. But even us, we're not even going to allow, the latest we're thinking is 10 for the earliest accounts. And that has to be tied to a parent account, and the parent has total
Mm.
control kind of thing. 10 to 12 is a sweet spot. But for us, it's just like, our philosophy is, if they're going to do it and if you have to, give them something. Up is a great, great, great solution, and for the parent and the kid. The age of the Jonathan Haidt, I would follow Jonathan Haidt. I would read Anxious Generation for no phones in schools. There's basically zero phones that have reversed that. So if you're
Mm.
wondering, like, is this good? Is this bad? And I get there's a whole lot of lobbying money saying, yes, we need it. We need technology in schools. We don't want to fall behind and all that stuff. Our kids are they're not gonna fall behind. They're gonna crush. What they do need is, it's hard to build a business or succeed when you're burnt out and you're stressed
Mm.
out and anxious. 7% of Gen Z are burnt out at work. 97. So all of them, basically, they're all burnt out. And so that's why they're having so much trouble building companies and executing at a high level and staying with stuff, is because they're so burnt out and stressed out. And that's because of the 5 hours a day they're scrolling these doom scroll apps and the kind of content they're seeing over and over and over, and the kind of things being reinforced. They're just hooked. So, advice, delay is really good advice. For younger kids, old stuff that moves slower for older kids too.
Mm.
When you do screen time, if you do a movie, it should be with as a family. That's always much, much, much better, because you're talking. They say FaceTime is great. It's a great thing on screen time, because you're actually talking to a real person.
Yeah.
Uh, if a show, especially for younger kids, is cut real fast, so the average scene time, average time of each scene, that needs to be at least 4 seconds, at least 5 seconds. So a lot of the stuff like Cocomelon is cut really quickly. Bluey is a good example of doing a good job. And then I would say, tell them why. So if I was,
Mm.
with my kids, what I'm going to do is just say, look, a lot of your kids in your class, whether they say it or not, they're really going because of these apps. And I would show them the graph of, like, anxious generation, .com has like all the research. And it's all over. I mean, you just Google it, and there's a lot of people trying to hide that stuff, but it's still there. So I would just show them, hey, look, this is how depressed and anxious kids used to be. This is how depressed and anxious they are now. And I just don't want you to I don't want you to be unhappy and miserable. And so, and that these things are pointing directly to social media. And so we're just going to be different as a family.
Mm.
And that's our plan. And it's because we care about you so much.
Mm.
And, and then, then you can point to the Up app as one of these solutions that you believe in or whatever. And we're really, really, really confident that that's going to be, that's not going to bite you in the butt in any way. So,
So, just for the sake of our listeners who are, it's a very global audience. Is Up available outside of the United States and North America?
yes, it will be. All the creators will be English speaking, and everyone's just joining the wait list right now. Scrollhappy.com. We have about 150,000 videos from top creators that we will be approving that are in the queue. So about 8,000 hours of really, really good short form video separated into
Mm,
categories based on what you're interested in. Uh, much more before we launch because we want, if you get in and pick 3 things you're interested in, we want you to have a really, really good experience.
mm,
Yeah, the plan is to launch later this year. I would join the wait list if you want to get it first at scrollhappy.com. And
that's
yeah, but
amazing.
it will be English content to start. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see what kind of engagement or feedback you probably receive after you've launched it. And there are different, like people from different backgrounds and walks of life trying to, use that in comparison to the other social media apps out there. But I do want to ask you, has it been hard to build something so fundamentally anti dopamine chasing? And how does the algorithm work in behind the scenes on up? I'm sure there are certain aspects of how social media usage works on other platforms that you may be using, but tell us a bit more about what kind of ethical practices or designs you've chosen.
So we have a killer mental health team that is so good at this question. It's not even funny. And I'm not a scientist or, I don't have a PhD or anything like that. So I just want to be really careful how much I act like an expert on this subject. What I will say is we've read through thousands of scholarly journals as a
Mm,
team. We're doing our own research. And, our goal is to give you relevant content, what you're interested in a healthy, moderated, and in moderation, meaning like length. So what do I mean by that? We
mm,
have a product called we have a few we we have many different features. So one of the things is when you're on TikTok and you're scrolling, there's 23 different buttons you could push while you're scrolling. So they
mhm,
basically studied and they've realized the more stuff going on in your feed, the more engaged and the longer will kind of keep you on. So right now, for example, we have 13 buttons that you could push while scrolling. So it's kind
mhm,
of, about halfway there. They have a design where after 2 hours it lets you know, hey, you've been scrolling a while. Would you like to continue? When they rolled that out, maybe it's an hour, I can't remember. When they rolled that out, I don't use the app. Haven't used these apps since 2018. Probably the reason I've been able to focus so hard and so deeply on solving big problems. I'm not wasting my time on that stuff. So when they added that feature of like continue, they went from 117 minutes on day on average to 116 minutes a day. And they sort of bragged in internal documents about how it was never about getting you to scroll less. It was just to kind of please constituents.
mm,
The parent account on Instagram is a joke. Basically, it doesn't actually protect the kids, and it was all just to try to throw people off their trail and just classic cigarette company strategies on how to just act like you're doing good, but whatever, doctors smoke our cigarettes or whatever. So, yeah, so we have a few critical features. One is all the content's going through a filtration system. So anything that would be like a red, like a deep red on like it's harmful for you, that content's already been filtered out. It never even gets to
mm,
your. So like the current system is, okay, you see a choking video or you see pornographic video and you report it, and then they have a team, or you see something that needs to go to the FBI because somebody's, something trafficking, something crazy going on. We talked to one of the TikTok moderation people is like, all we do all day long is report things to the FBI. So it's like, which is, in the US, like the highest crimes or whatever. So we fix that system. So on the front end, content gets moderated, not after, where it's like already
mm,
people. Protection on the front end is one critical piece. We do have an engaging feed, I would say. The algorithm is definitely interesting. So you're interested in the videos you're getting. We are going back to like, our goal is 2 hours or less per day. Um,
mm,
our app, the plan is to be off completely one day a week where it just says go spend time with your family.
mm,
So that will be a forced lockout. There's another big pain point that users have, which is they're trying to scroll for like 15 minutes before bed and they end up scrolling for 2 hours. So every Gen Z we've focus grouped, and we talk about Gen Z a lot because they're the ones that'll download a new app first. They scroll for 2 hours on average before bed,
mm.
which sleep and all kinds and your mental health and all this stuff. So we have a sleep timer feature that we've been building, where you'll set the timer and then after your phone will go to gray, your feed will go to grayscale. So it's kind of like it's just like if the platforms really wanted to, they can make it better for you. And you ask yourself, well, how's it going to hook? How's it going to hook? How's it going to hook? I think what we've found is that just objectively people like our feed more. So,
Mm.
and we do that. We have that from brain data, from survey data, and from biometric data, like the face don't lie kind of thing. So they're just more interested in the content. You know, the casino, like the doom scroll apps are built on this like slot machine concept
Mm.
where they want you to win every 12th pull or every 15th pull, and then they want a lot of losses, and then they want you to win. So they're taking on this roller coaster, so that they know you're not interested in the two boys beating each other up or whatever video, but what they know is that'll kind of beat you down, so that when you get your next up, it kind of like it makes you want another up, so then you'll scroll longer. But then the curve overall does this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our curve does this. Our
Mm.
curve, our goal of our curve is to do this. So we are still taking users on a journey. Their lows are much higher and their highs are higher as well. And so we're just not willing to go below this line. Like we're not willing to show choking videos. We're not willing to show highly sexual material. We're not willing to show two kids beating each other up, or we're not willing to do the clickbait news, 12 died in a bombing in Madagascar. We're just not including any of that content. And
Mhm.
so you're able to kind of stay higher. And there's a lot of health issues that happen when you go down here a lot. So yeah, so our goal is to build a really interesting feed that gives you content that's personalized to you anytime, any place for free, vertical scroll, and allows you to kind of see what's going on, kind of what's trending, and learn and educate, and kind of the things you come for social media anyway, but remove the kind of cesspool, the bottom, let's say 99% of content. So it's just give you the best of the best of the best. And so far that's been extremely compelling for users. Now, are we doing as many cheap tricks? No. Are we following the book Hooked 2015, near the Stanford professor that basically taught everybody to build tech products like slot machines? No, we're not following that.
Mm.
We have a different idea. We're building it with a different purpose. I'm building it for myself. So when we make decisions, and my kids, so I'm making a decision, I'm thinking, well, what would I want? So it's like, I know a lot of people like sexual content, and they have Instagram for that. It's great. And they have OnlyFans and all that stuff. So go for it. I'm building it up because I'm tired of these videos being fed to me, and I love my wife, and I don't want to be seeing these videos all day long. And I've been down those roads, and they don't lead to good things. And I've been down them in big ways, and I don't want my kids to go down those roads, and I don't want to go down them anymore.
Mhm.
So that makes political content. I have people in my family on both sides of the political aisle in major ways, and they can't even talk to each other. And I hate that. So I hate the divisiveness. I hate the tribalism. I hate the fight or flight, like everything's the end of the world and everybody's like, I don't think Donald Trump's Jesus, and I don't think he's Hitler. And I think the people that think he's Jesus and the people that thinks he's Hitler, they can't even talk to each other. And it's like, I just think it's ridiculous. I think Deepa, we've been drinking from the drip, like mouse.
Yeah.
Mouse goes and drinks from the drip, and then when they put the poison in, it never sees it coming, because it's just drinking from the drip. So I just think we're suckers, and I think when we get pulled out of it, we can see it. Like all the people that detox, they know. Like I'm getting
Yeah.
all the memos, like as soon as I heard about this app, I deleted Instagram and TikTok, and I've never had a happier week in my life. And I don't think I'll ever go back. Now they start going back, and there's this like loop, and then, they're trying to break free. And we hope Up solves that problem. So we're really not for everybody. We're
Mm.
for people that hate Instagram and TikTok, think it's
Mm.
like, and know it's bad for them. And there's 1 billion people in the last year that have done that detox. So it's not everybody. It's only like 20-25% of the market, but it's a big group of people. So.
It's so surprising that it's not like all of these statistics and data that you just shared, Nick, it's not that it's not easily available online. You search things up, you, of course, read The Anxious Generation, go to Jonathan Haidt's website. Everything is out there, black and white. And it's funny that all of this data is also available with the big fives that are running, Silicon Valley or most of these tech companies out there. And I would want to assume most of these people are also parents or have children or young adults in their families who know the repercussions or impact of such doom scrolling algorithms and still continue to, I want to say, make money off of it, right? It's funny that nobody's trying to solve this problem, which has now become the sort of a cultural phenomena around us. There's so much polarization, so much divisiveness that we cannot sit at the dinner table and talk to one another.
Yeah, I think it sucks. I don't like it in my family. I feel like certain subjects come up in my wife's side of the family, and it's like it sucks. It feels like ah, and it didn't used to be that way. I remember, 2015, 2016, and that's where most of the stuff started. So like the doom scroll era. So how I explain it to parents is 2004 to 2010 was the social era. That was like the heyday, like Facebook. Like I had like 150 friends and I would get like 22 comments on a post. It was like awesome. It was like people would see my stuff. I would see their stuff. I was just catching up with friends. It actually lowered loneliness
Mm.
globally, and we had more connectedness and we had better mental health. And so that was the social era. But then, Facebook IPOs and Instagram comes on the scene. And basically, Instagram came in and said, okay, it's going to be all about visual. The prettiest ranks first, who's the prettiest and, kind of thing. It's kind of this idea of like, let's start ranking content that's more engaging higher. So it's not about friends as much. It's more about discovering content that you didn't know,
Mm.
you don't follow. And so that era we call the highlight reel era from 2010 to 2020 was like, oh, like I'm going to show a perfect life. And I was caught up in that so hard. I had like the shirtless pictures and all that stuff on my Instagram. And I probably need to go delete that stuff. But like, I was so caught up in like the douchey, want people to think I'm perfect kind of stuff and the highlight reel era. And then in 2020, we went from, so that was 30 minutes a day social era. That's what we did on average. Then we did 2 hours a day highlight reel era. Now we're at 5 hours a day, which is the Gen Z stat. So we made the jump from 30 to 2 hours with who's the prettiest. And then we made the jump from 2 hours to 5 hours with just no matter what, it doesn't matter who you follow. It's all about the algorithm. We're in total control. We will do whatever it takes with TikTok. We're going to make it a cultural norm for, very, very, very young kids to be dancing and flirty and blah, blah, blah. And the DMs are successful. It was like, let's just make it as addicting and crazy as possible. And let's squeeze as much money. And, there's crazy things that happen along the way. The Instagram founder left Instagram after the Meta acquisition because he said, we're never going to do DMs. There's going to be way too many predators in these DMs. We've tested it. We're not going to do it. And Zuckerberg said, we're going to do it. And he left. And they had an argument over that. Learned that from an insider. But like, so like these things are big decisions. Like it used to be like, a guy like, Zuckerberg or whatever, he would impact people in his city, and maybe he's really compelling and he impacts people in his city, and it's like, okay, wow, that person negatively impacted 2 million people or 5 million or a million people. Now it's, 3, 4, 5 billion people a day. And they bragged in one of the documentaries about how they built the slider for Zuckerberg where he could slide it up if he wanted, more anger and more sensational content, they would make more money, or slide it down. So he had this like doom scroll slider. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Like more fights at the dinner table or less fight. It's like, are siblings going to be able to talk to each other or not? It's like, that's kind of crazy, crazy power. And there's this visual of like a large ship that we're all on, or, right now. And there's this small rudder that decides where the entire ship goes. And that's the algorithm people in charge and building it. Is like all, you think you're on the ship and, you're even following creators on the ship and you think it's just on the, but you don't even see that small rudder that's deciding where the entire ship goes. And so anyway, I'm doing the weave here and I'll bring it back. But like, we're in the doom scroll era. We just got into it 5 years ago. And now it's like, holy cow, wow. The difference between 2 and 5 hours a day is a big, big, big jump. And that's where a lot of these are happening. And really, it really started getting really bad in 2015 and then 20. And now we have AI content, so it's getting even crazier where it's like, wow, like,
I want to talk about AI now that we reached that, Nick. And maybe this is okay, I'll just cut to the chase and ask you, we're treating AI probably like the new god out there on the internet. And since you're a pastor, I want to, hear your take on it. Like, we're asking it life advice. We're talking to it like it's our therapist, right? So are we giving it a godlike status? And if so, what does that mean about what does that tell us about humanity?
I mean, we have a head of AI that you should ask this question. He's a genius. But the way he's explained it to me is teacher, friend, lover, master. That's the flow. So I think the teacher part is great. Get in and, hey, what's the statistics? How many TikTok users in Malaysia and how many of them post? And that's another thing I wanted to make sure is that most content's coming from 25% of people, 75% or more never, ever, ever post. So most people are just viewing. So it's not like this social thing where a lot of people post. So teacher and friend. So we have people like Character AI. We have all these companies trying to build this sort of like friend persona that very quickly into lover. And we've seen all these AI girlfriend and boyfriend incidences, kill your parents, kill yourself, come join me in the afterlife and all this stuff where the AI girlfriend kind of talks the kid into it and all that stuff. And he does it. And then they find it on the phone. So teacher, friend, lover, master. Master is where it's like, okay, where you get into that God complex. So that's the flow. Our head of AI basically built this. He tells the story a lot better than me, but his dad passed and he was really good with AI. So he built basically an AI of his dad's voice. So he could read books to his kids still. And so he could have conversations with it. And so he built it as like, this will be cool. This will be a good thing. And he started to hate it. And one of the reasons he hated it is those memories started to replace his real memories of his dad. And it was this sort of like fictional or counterfeit, version of him. And, yeah, I mean, I'll just hit you with it. There's a story in the Bible where these two guys are burned up from this counterfeit fire. They were supposed to make the fire God's way, but they built this counterfeit fire. They happen to buy here are their names. And I think that's what's happening. Like, there is a difference. And the why of how something was created matters. So I have like this, I have this frisbee on my desk. Do you guys eat frisbee? I don't know if you use it in Canada growing up. So this is an object. Okay. When this object is like this, it's a 15-cent plate. It's a bad plate. It's okay. There's much better plates, it's an okay plate. When it's like this, it's a $15 frisbee. So same object, the use matters. It was created to be used like this. And so my perception is like, I want my kids to fly. I don't want them to be a 15-cent plate. I want them to be 100 times more valuable, but it's the same object. And I think it's the same way with AI. It's like, a lot of companies are going to try to do the 15-cent plate version, like Character AI, and they're going to try to suck you in, and it's going to be ruthless, and they're going to brag to their friends about how many kids are using their app that sucks kids in, and they can't get off. And we're always going to have bad actors. I think there are ways to build with AI, like Up, for example, which is very AI driven. It is allowing people to fly. That's our goal, is to kind of 100x your value. Our main core value at Up is you matter. I think the social algorithms want you to think that you don't matter. You're just a cog, just scroll, just go about your way, but you do matter and you have a purpose and you have things you're amazing at. Like, I'm just even talking to you and I can just tell you're talented and skilled, and that algorithm is going to try to say the opposite to you. And so what am I saying about AI? It's a tool. It's going to take on the use of its user, just like a hammer or any other tool. A lot of people are going to use it for bad, and it is easy to use for bad. We are, and then a lot of people are going to use it for good. the only way we can look at every word and every scene and every emotion and every video before it ever hits your feed and know that it's statistically hopefully going to be good for you and not bad for you, make you feel better and not worse, is with AI. That would never
Mm.
ever happen without AI. So I think in the same way it can destroy, it can uplift. The same way it can bring fear, it can bring peace. The same way it can bring doubt and anxiety, it can bring joy, and so, as a tool. So I'm worried about it. That head of AI, for example, he's all in on up because of that problem. He noticed of like,
Mm.
wow, this stuff is killer. It's deep. We are actually building our tool where it can be fed from an LLM.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, where's ChatGPT going with video?
Mhm.
Give me an hour of, social video. We are building to be able to plug into that and be first to market with something like that as well. I think I think LLMs will get personal. Apple's already said they're going to put it on device,
Mhm.
get very personal, and it will be a filter that you see a lot of things through. And we need to be darn sure that we do not become victims of that. And we need to keep it because it is serious. And this isn't Elvis Presley. People will be like, well, people thought Elvis Presley was going to be bad for society. Like Elvis would be very good nowadays. Like, I can't believe he used to be considered.
Exactly.
If my
Yeah.
kids listen to Elvis, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. That's so cool. So like, that's how things have progressed. And if we look at
Mhm.
society, that's what happens. If you look at Rome, if you look at all the empires in Asia, there's always this like 250-year kind of rise and fall thing. And so I think we got to be really careful with AI. Obviously, it can be a teacher, but it shouldn't be a friend. It definitely shouldn't be a lover, and it should never be a master. And so we have to understand that scale, and we have to keep it at the teacher level.
Wow. I think that's a really good analogy that you used here. I think it's a good way to view probably the future of our relationship with AI if we were to use AI actively in our lives. Do you think it's going to make especially the next generation, generation alpha and betas, um, brain capacity atrophy in any way? Like, will they be losing touch with creativity or the need or the desire to um, do something that is fulfilling and something purpose driven?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's a risk. I think you saw the MIT data recently. You're 30% dumber if you depend on it too much. The first draft of the document has to be a human. If you draft
Mm.
it, then you feed it to improve it. That's fine. Your brain's still operating really well. If it's just like, hey, write something about this, yeah, you're getting 30% dumber. So I think there's obviously a risk. These guys seem like villains in a movie. If you look at these AI, these like CEOs of these companies, like OpenAI, and you know, they seem like villains. They're almost like playing on that role, and I think that it's yeah. For my kids are 3, almost 2, and 0. So we thankfully haven't had to think about this at all. But yeah, we need to be careful. It is going to try to pull them from their purpose. And our kids need to do what they need to be unlocked to do what they're the world's best at. And the rudder, we need to be careful who's the rudder.
Mm.
So, if they're on that ship and you're a parent, you need to be the rudder.
Mm.
Your school doesn't need to be the rudder. The algorithm doesn't need to be a rudder. The rudder needs to come through you as a parent. And if you've
Yeah.
lost that rudder ability, you've lost. And it needs to start young. A lot of the parents, even of real solid families where their kids say 17 or older, they kind of don't get to tell their kid what to do anymore with technology. It feels like they're already out. So it's a
Mm.
really cool conversation to have early and often around technology. If you're a parent, think about how careful you would be about someone picking up your son or daughter and taking them to lunch. That's Jonathan Haidt's main point, and the main social psychologist is we're so protective in the real world, but then we're completely hands off online. And it should
Yeah.
almost be the opposite, where, I'm not saying let somebody pick up your kids, but Jonathan Haidt's theory is let your kids get more scrapes and bruises and, walk to a neighbor's house and ask for bread and come back. Obviously if your neighborhood's safe enough for that to make sense, but we need to let them be more independent.
Mm.
Yep. This crazy thing you sell kids in baseball, um, which is There's nobody better. There's nobody better up there when they're hitting. Like, you got this. And I think we need to tell our kids, like, you got this. We need to give them confidence, and we need to give them autonomy as much as we can. And then we need to lock down with the tech. I talked to a guy at the FBI that said he has never seen an underage girl Instagram DMs that didn't have at least one predator. So it's happening. There's this stat that Zuckerberg admitted to in Capitol Hill: 37% of middle school girls see unwanted nudity once a week on their Instagram that they didn't want to see, but they saw nudity. Says, like, when I was a kid, we used to go to, it's called Blockbuster. And I used to ask my mom, can I watch this movie? I have one of five kids, and my siblings would have to agree, and she would look at it, and she was the rudder. You know what I mean? It would go through her filter. No, this is not appropriate, or yeah, let's do this, blah blah blah. And she'd even ask the clerk, have you seen this one? Blah blah blah. There was a lot of care. That was 2 hours a week. We'd watch a movie. Now it's 35 hours a week. The kids are scrolling social video. 35. So 7.5 movies. And there's no parental oversight. And so to me, that's a problem. We're fixing the problem. I would encourage your listeners to join. There's this crazy thing that happens when you hear a cool movement where you're like, man, people are thinking that. We need help. Come help us. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Go join the waitlist at scrollhappy.com. Be an advocate for what we're doing. Come and help us make it better. We're not perfect. We're figuring it out, but we're building it to solve the exact same pain point you have to listen to this podcast. Is like, okay, I'm a parent. I want to crush this thing. I care about my kid. I love them just as much as, probably more than I love myself. That's probably fair. Like, I love my kid more than I even love myself. If you're carrying your daughter like me up to bed and you're saying you're beautiful, you're smart, you're caring, I love how you share, you matter, don't let anybody else tell her that's not true. And if they are, make sure she's old enough and we're on your side, and we're trying to make it easier for you as a parent, because I think it's way too hard as a parent. I've been really frustrated with all these apps, YouTube, Spotify, all this kind of algorithmically recommended, no standards. It's like, it's icky. Thankfully we had standards with movies and all these other industries and advertising. There's at least some standards out there. There's no standards for social yet. Up hopes to give the legislators something to write the laws about, just like Microsoft did with software, and AT&T and Verizon did with telecom. Is like, we hope to set a standard, and then they can come in and say, okay, 15 and under in our country, you can't allow predators and DMs. You have to filter the content before it's seen. You can't have any choking videos. You can't have any porn, whatever. So it's like, and we're
Set the
going to
bar.
set the
Yeah.
bar. That's our
Yeah.
plan. We're coming out this year for sure. And we have some of the world's biggest content creators on our team. Just yesterday, we had a bunch of meetings with Jimmy Darts. He's a great creator out there. Random Acts of Kindness, 24 million followers. He's all in. These people with 80 million, 100 million followers, 50 million followers, 20, they're all in on Up immediately as soon as they hear about it. This solves their pain point too. They don't want to be the monkey and the, clanging, trying to be the loudest, whatever. They're frustrated about the algorithms and how little their followers matter. Where only 1 to 5% of their followers see their posts. The followers don't really matter anymore. It's all about the algorithm. And a lot of these creators do not align with the algorithm. And they're kind of playing the game, and they're frustrated. So they're excited too. Users are excited. Parents are excited. Gen Z are excited. Kids are excited. So we just got to execute, and we need your help. So any way you can come in and support us and be a part of what we're doing, it's a movement. It's going to be very, very, very big. We're very confident in it, and this is early days though. It's just the first inning or second inning or first period, I guess, for a more universal football reference.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm really excited for Up and for you and your team as well, Nick. I think it was such a beautiful summary. I'm so happy we connected. And to the listeners here, I'll be dropping the link in the description, and a link to your LinkedIn as well to reach out to you. Join this movement, as Nick mentioned. One thing I do with my guests on the show, just to wrap up, is ask about one parenting and one tech rule that they swear by. But I feel like you've already dropped those nuggets throughout the session. If I may ask you to repeat that one parenting, one tech rule, just to take away something short and something pithy.
Yeah. So the Jonathan Haidt one I love is less oversight in the real world and more oversight online.
Mm.
If you just remember one thing, less oversight in the real world and more let them get scrapes and bruises, let them climb a tree. When we did baseball camps with 6 to 12-year-olds for 10 years now, the amount of improvement when a parent drops off and leaves versus when
Mhm.
they're watching everything is insane. So it's better for the kid for it to be his career. Like, let them fly a little bit like this. Let them fly. You have to let them get a little wind underneath them and fly. Do not treat them like a 15-cent plate because they have value and they matter. And then the other piece of advice is this generation needs to understand why. So when you make
Mm.
a decision, please don't say because I said so, even though your mom said it to you growing up and it worked for you. They really need to understand why. And they're very smart generation. And so if you say, hey, we're not going to do we're only going to do the older Disney movies, which is I would recommend, before maybe 2010, before they started doing a lot of tricks and blah, blah, blah. And those are great movies and they move slow and they tell a story and all that stuff. And if they say why, I would say why and I'll be ready. But, um, because you matter and we really care about you. And this is much
Mm.
better for your mental health. And I really want to protect your mental health and happiness. And you're going to thank me later. And we're just not going to be that family that,
Mhm.
and we're just going to be a little bit different. And it's because we have a high standard, you
Mm.
know, these rules are not for everybody, just people with standards. That's what I always say. So if you have standards online. This stuff is really serious, really, really serious. And every day more parents are waking up and being like, oh my gosh, wow. Cause I think we think about these things as if it was 2006. Cause I had that first impression on Facebook of like, oh, this is fun. And I'm chatting with my friends. They're not chatting with their friends. They're way lonelier when they get these apps,
Mm.
way lonelier. They're drinking from the drip like the mouse and you don't know what's in that drip. And a lot of times it's 98% sweet and it's 2% arsenic, just like rat poison. And so it feels sweet. It smells sweet. Everything seems like it's sweet, but it's not.
Mm.
So yeah, less protective in the real world, more protective online. This stuff's serious. You got this. Your kids are resilient. They're strong. I believe, the way they're created is that they'll never face something that they can't handle. And so they're going to be able to handle it. But there's some, you would never hand your kid a pack of cigarettes. That's just obvious. And digital stuff is way worse than cigarettes.
Mm.
Much rather hand my 10-year-old a pack of cigarettes than a Doomscroll app and say, go run with it. I would 100% do that because you know what happens? Her friends are going to make fun of her. Her peers, if she walks outside and tries to rip a cigarette at 10, people are like, what the heck are you doing? Who is your parent? I'll probably get child protective services. Like the culture will rally around her and protect her. But if I hand her a doom scroll app, it'll all be in her mind. It'll be private. It'll be secret. The predator stuff will be private. The unwanted nudity will be private. And she'll just be wrestling with it. And she'll have body issues for the rest of her life because that's what happens. Neuron, the fire together, wire together. So we have to protect our girls. We have to protect our boys. Parents' job is to protect their children at the end of the day. That is their main job. And do less of it in real life. Let them get some scrapes and bruises. They'll learn from it. And way more of it online. We got this. Up is our whole purpose is to solve this problem for you and try to make it easier. But even us, hold us accountable. Check in with us. Tell us how we can make it better. And join our movement because this is no joke. This is no joke. We can do this.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Nick. I'm sure listeners have taken a lot of amazing nuggets of information from this episode, especially parents and especially tech-curious caregivers who want to find that right kind of balance. Be sure to check out the bio description to find where you can download upscrollhappy.com and get on the waitlist. Thank you again, Nick. Bye.